In order to close any lead, you have to be able to do these three things perfectly. Number one, discovery. Number two, pitch. And number three, your close. And I'm going to walk you through exactly how I do this. Now, I am somebody who has an average close rate of over 80%. So when I tell you this works, it works. Any sale is ultimately going to come down to how well you do discovery, because discovery is going to determine the effectiveness of the rest of your pitch and your close. If you don't do proper discovery and get the information that you need to actually cater this sale to the person you're on the phone with, you are not going to close. So, discovery is what happens right after rapport building when somebody joins the call. This is where you are getting a good understanding of somebody's current reality. So, the symptoms that are currently coming up for them in their day to day lives and how that's actually affecting them. Number two, their desired outcome. So, what is it that they want their life to look like? What would them getting rid of this problem actually mean? And then, what are their gaps? So, what is it that they're missing? What are they doing wrong? What do they not know or not have that is keeping them from that desired result? The thing is that there's a lot of different ways to go about this. And what people try to do is typically follow a script or ask a very set series of questions, and they think that that is adequate discovery. When in reality, you really just have those three check boxes in your mind that you are trying to ascertain the information for. And if you're knowledgeable about the thing that you're selling, then you shouldn't have to have a really set roster of questions to be able to get you through the call. Starting off with that checklist, number one is current reality. And there's a lot of different questions and a lot of different ways that you can get to the root of what's actually coming up for them right at that time. And something that I like to do instead of randomly asking a bunch of questions, I like to cut right to the chase. And I think that people really appreciate my more blunt approach. And so after we've gone through kind of the rapport building section of the call, we've gotten cozy, we've gotten comfortable, then I'm going to get into and basically just ask, okay, so we don't have a lot of time here, obviously, but I want to really, really understand what is coming up for you right now and see if this is something that we can help with. So let me just cut to the chase. What is kind of the core roadblock that you're experiencing or the thing that really prompted you to book this call? And so, with that language, what's coming up for you? What's the roadblock you're experiencing? What prompted you to book this call? You're giving them a couple different pathways to go, because for a lot of people, it can be really daunting to actually explain what their problem is. But if they can kind of, it's just creating a lower barrier of entry essentially for them to actually articulate what it is that's coming up for them. And so rather than having to have them tackle the whole big problem, it's just if you can give them these avenues to kind of mentally go down, what's coming up for you? Why did you book this call? Or what is the biggest roadblock that you're experiencing? Usually they can come up with something that is going to be kind of tapping into the root of what they really care about. And that's going to be their knee jerk reaction. Whereas instead, if you start asking questions where it's like, okay, tell me about what you do, tell me about your business, tell me about what you're doing right now for marketing. What does your sales look like? What does this look like? If you start asking all of those questions, then you make it a lot harder for them to articulate and really just cut through the noise as to like, why are they here? What is their most important thing? Because even though as you ask them questions, and you're going to get into that information later, even though they may have issues with their sales process and with their marketing and with this and with that, right? Their core concern, what they think is the problem, what they feel is most important, that's what is actually going to give you leverage to close a sale. You coming up with things that you've decided are important is not going to necessarily be aligned with what they care about. That's why I like to lead off discovery and let them kind of lead the conversation. Again, that's why I don't have a set group of questions. With letting them lead the conversation, typically they'll say something like, well, I've been posting really, they'll tell you typically kind of what their main pain point is. So, like, I've been posting really consistently, but I'm not seeing like the amount of sales I think I should be for the amount of effort that I'm putting in. Great. Okay. It would have been really hard for me to get to that outcome asking them all about their business and all about their marketing and all about their process and blah, blah, blah. Right. I'm going to get into that later. But if I had led with that, I wouldn't have gotten this like really juicy piece of information, which is their pain is coming from the fact that they're putting in so much effort, but they're not seeing the output for the amount of effort they're putting in. That is something that they can articulate when they're like, oh, this is what's burdening me, rather than trying to go through and explain themselves and work up to that point, kind of doing it in the opposite way, which I see a lot of closers do. And I think it's why your close rate is lower than it needs to be. Once we've gotten that out of the way, it's like, okay, here's the core roadblock. Then my next question is always, okay, tell me more about that. What I'm looking to understand is, why do they think that's the problem? What are the things that are indicating to them that this is what needs to be solved? And this is allowing them to sell themselves. Rather than you running this like an interview process where you're checking boxes. Tell me about your business. How many years have you been in business? What's your revenue? What's this? What's that? You're just checking boxes. You're not actually getting to the root of the issue. And so allowing them to lead the conversation and expand and really feel heard is going to sell them. They are going to pre-sell themselves better than you ever could. The next thing that you're going to do after you've said, okay, tell me more about that, they're going to tell you more about that. Then you're going to ask specific questions. And this is where your checklist kind of will come in, because I have kind of main pillars of discovery that I want to know about their current reality. I want to assess their current reality in relation to what their after is going to look like after they work with me. So I know that, as I go through these different pillars, right? When I first start asking them about marketing, right? They're going to be telling me about how many followers they have, how many people they're reaching. I'm going to ask them about their process. I'm going to ask them what that looks like. And those questions are very specifically coming from what I know the outcomes are. So this is where I'm kind of checking boxes to see where their gaps are, because their current reality is also going to lend information as to what they're missing, what they're doing wrong, what that gap is that's keeping them from where they want to be, which is going to be vital to you later on in the pitch. I want to kind of go through, and I have this checklist process that I run through. And so what I need to understand is, how do they come up with what to post? How are they creating content? So like, what is the process? Is it going out consistently? Do they know their numbers and what their numbers are telling them? And how far out does their content span go? How strategic is it actually from, 0 to 10? How strategic is their content plan? Then I'm going to dive into getting an understanding of, who it is that they're actually wanting to reach, for example. So, okay, these are your ideal clients. Are you reaching those people on social media? What is the brand archetype that you're trying to connect with? Do you know how to relate your offer to each of the 4 different buyer types and sell to them through your audience? If the answer is no, then that's checking my box. That is a gap that they have, right? So I'm going through and trying to just assess what the things are that they are missing, so that I know if these are gaps that it would be useful and essentially ethical for me to fill. This is how you are able to really lead with integrity in your sales process. Because if I get to this point of the call and I've learned that really they don't have gaps that I can fill, or the gaps that they have are not things that we really focus in on, then I'm going to send them somewhere else. I'm going to let them know that, like, hey, this isn't really what we're doing. It seems to me that you have these gaps. And so this type of person or this type of service provider would really be a better suited to fill those gaps that you have. That allows you to move forward confidently too as you transition into actually pitching, because you know that this is a person who genuinely needs what you are selling. So there's no ick, there's no like fear or pressure around the sales process or around creating a sale with that person, because you know without a doubt that your offer fills the gaps that they have and would give them a specific outcome which aligns with the outcome that they are looking for. So you can then move unburdened into your pitch and into your close and help them to understand why this is a perfect fit. So then the rest of your call, and people call it a pitch and I call it a pitch too, but what the pitch really is for you to just explain how you fill the gaps that they have. And because they've explained to you what those are and what those problems are that they're having and how it's presenting for them, when you say, okay, X, Y, and Z is going to solve those problems, they're able to assess and then make a purchase decision. And again, they are selling themselves. So you're not having to feel icky and like you're pressuring and forcing people, because if they don't have the correct gaps that your offer would fill, you're not going to sell them anyway. So it doesn't matter. You would be off the call by now. It's going to be important that you ask leading questions again so that they are able to not just answer with a yes or no, so that they're actually able to give you context into not just what is the problem, but how is it presenting for them on a day to day basis. So then, what I like to do once I have all of the information, I understand what all of their gaps are, then I'm going to transition into my pitch. So the way that I do that as is by getting this tie down. And the last question that I ask is, okay, so it sounds like you're aware that you are missing XYZ. It sounds like you know that you need to implement XYZ to be able to get to this result. And they confirm. So why now? Why is this important to you to solve now, not in 6 months from now or next year? And why haven't we moved on this already? What was the tipping point? What I'm doing is I am asking them to close themselves. Why do I need to sign up for this right now? They just are going to explain that to you. You're welcome. I just doubled your close rate with that tip alone. After you get that tie down and after you have them selling themselves, then what you're going to do is go into the pitch. If they've explained to you why now and you're like, okay, that seems like a valid reason, it sounds like we need to move on this. So if you know that we need to solve this problem, here's what I would do to fix that. Right. And so that's my transition. And then I can go into the pitch. So for us, what that looks like is we walk through the 4 different pillars of our program. We have 4 pillars. You might have 3, you might have 5, right? Whatever your process is to fill the gaps that they have and get them to their desired outcome, that is what you are now going to explain. This is going to be focused on the transformation and filling the holes that they've explained to you. This isn't about selling yourself and explaining why you're the best and blah, 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 because your marketing should have already done that. They already know that you're the best. That's why they booked a call with you. As we move through explaining these different pillars, we're going to want to customize it based off of what we learned from discovery. So if I learned that and they told me that they have a gap in understanding their brand archetype and they don't know actually how to create content that's activating to all 4 buyer types, they have communicated to me now that that is a gap. So what I would say to tie that into my pitch is like, okay, so step 1, we're going to do an entire business audit and really understand what the specific places are that you are missing the mark in your social media. So is it your reels? Is it your positioning? What does that specifically look like for you? And then we are going to map out the exact changes that you would need to make so that we're able to speak to all 4 of those buyer types. You understand what the brand archetype is that you are wanting to embody. And that is also going to allow you to have that clarity within your offers that we talked about, where you're not quite sure who each offer is specifically curated for. That is also going to solve that problem. So we'll take care of those key bottlenecks within the first month. The second phase is blah, blah, blah. So then you would move on to your second pillar. So you can see how I took what I'm going to do for her and how we're going to fill those gaps. I explained what the process looks like. So we're going to do this gap assessment. We're going to audit this. We're going to map out the exact changes that you need to make. And then we're going to implement. So that will solve X, Y, Z. So there's no question as to like, is this going to work for me? Or how does this work? Or is this process actually useful, right? We've already answered all of those questions before we've even completed selling, because they now know, okay, these are the exact elements of the process that are going to solve these exact problems that I have. So you're eliminating those questions and that lack of trust and that fear. So then you'll move through the different pillars of your offer or service, doing that same process, relating it back to what you learned in discovery. And this is going to allow you to basically educate into a close. So you are going to give them insight into how specifically each of those gaps are going to be filled. You're going to be very honest, you're going to be very concise, and then you're going to give the next steps. So this is where we can transition into the actual close. This is where we're going to essentially, after we've done explained everything, we say, do you have any additional questions about any of that? Or does that sound like what you need? So we've got a little bit of a soft close right there. I've never had somebody at this point say, no, I don't need that. Or I don't think that's going to work, right? I've never had that happen. 100 out of 100 times, people say, yeah, that sounds like what I need. So then at that point, what I'm going to do is transition into the support and the close. And the support and the way that we actually deliver that transformation. That is something that I pair with the close, and a lot of people pair with the pitch, and I'm going to explain that in a second. What we do is we close and we onboard on the call, because that is the best way for us to maintain a seamless customer experience. Because if everybody goes through the exact same process on the call, we get you logged into everything, we make sure that you have every email, then we don't have any issues. So that's how we can make sure that we have extreme quality control within our sales process and within our customer experience. Coming back here, then what I like to do is once they've said, yes, that sounds like what I'm needing, usually they will either ask or you can dive in, but one way or another, you're going to get into how it's actually delivered. So you've told them about what, now you're going to tell them how. So the how, right, is the actual logistical steps, right? So it's like, okay, so for everything that we discussed to make that happen for you, first thing that we do is we go ahead and onboard on this call so that I can make sure that you get all of the emails, you get the information, and you will fill out a form that is going to give us all of the information that we need for that initial audit. And then we're going to get you into the Slack channel where you are able to have 24/7 support. All of the panel is inside of the Slack channel. And so you can ask any questions that you have, get any custom support so that you have that immediate feedback happening there. You will also be granted access to the calendar, which is going to give you the information for the call times, because we do have daily calls with every single one of the different panelists on our expert panel, because we understand that you are running a business every single day, not just once a week. So we don't think that a weekly Q&A call is enough, and we want to set a higher standard for our client experience. So you'll have those daily calls, which entail X, Y, and Z. Then you'll be given access as well to the portal. This is connected to that calendar, and this is where you're going to be able to network with the community, ask any additional questions, ask for feedback or support in there, get feedback from your peers, as well as have access to the modules. Now, what the modules do is those give you a foundational understanding of our principles, because this is a really psychology heavy program. What you're going to need to understand is X, Y, and Z, so that we're able to then take that and customize it to your business. But it's going to be really hard for you to work with us in customization if you don't understand the basic principles. So we'll have you go through those so that you understand that, and then we can work more individually with you to actually implement this for your business. And that's when you close. So you've already assumed the sale. They've already been nodding along. You've been getting those micro commitments as you've explained to them what it's going to look like for them to be in the program. And then you can jump into the close. So would it be better to start this week or next week? Or I can book you on a kickoff call for Tuesday or Thursday, right? I love to lean on an option close here because it feels a little bit softer, and we've already gotten those tie downs. We've already gotten those commitments. We already know that they're on board. And so then we're just giving a choice. And the choice is not ever yes or no. It's now or later. And we want that later to be controlled, because then what a lot of people will do, if you don't do this correctly, then they'll say, oh, well, I need time to think about it. Or, oh, I don't know if now is the best time for me to do this. Maybe I should do it in a month. You've already given that control. So we can say, do we want to do this month or next month? If you have those options, right? And so then they are committing, they are closing, and you're taking away all of the possible objections that they could have. Now, once we've gotten into that, that's when we want to price drop. So this month or next month? Well, I think this month would probably be better for us to go ahead. Awesome. So the investment for everything that we discussed, this XYZ to get you to XYZ result, is going to be 24K. And then you shut up. Stop talking. I'm serious. Shut up. Stop talking. Okay? Because if you immediately start to say, but we can break that into payment, blah, 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 or I know it's a lot of money, but blah, 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 you have lost all of your power. You have lost the sale. You're going to drop the price. It's 24K. Shut up. Okay? And then they're going to either say, great, here's my credit card, or great, what do I need to do? Are you going to drop me a link, an invoice, whatever, right? Or they'll say, okay, I don't have that in cash, but do you offer payment plans, right? Blah, blah, blah. At that point, you can then work together to customize a solution that is actually going to work for them. And again, this is where you can lead with integrity in your sales process, because you're not having to push. They've already committed. You've come to this decision together. It's not you trying to push them into a close. Now, if you have done this process correctly, if you have done all of your discovery, you've gotten the correct information, you've pitched correctly, and you've connected it back to the discovery information, and you had them sell you, you are not going to get a single objection, you'll close on the call and onboard your new client. Let me know if you have any questions. I hope this video was helpful for you. Leave any questions you have in the comments below, or feel free to DM me on Instagram. I love a good voice note conversation, and I'm happy to walk you through and help you with anything in regards to this video. As always, be sure to subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!